So good day, everyone. Today, I'm very, very excited to have someone whom I respect a lot in the astrological field. She's very good in astrological research, something that I may want to delve into myself later on in my career. And she's Didem, and she's from Turkey. And at the end of this video, I will be linking her YouTube channel and her socials to this video. Welcome, Didem.
Thank you, Donny. Thank you very much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's been a pleasure having you because what you have to present, I feel, is very important in what we are going to experience very soon.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about the cycles of war and how it ties into the Venus star point, the morning and the evening phase.
Yeah.
Of it all.
And now I can show my presentation, and so let's talk about it.
And she has already translated a relevant article into English on her website, in which I will also link, in the description below.
Yes. Okay, then. Ready. So, in common lore of astrology, Venus in her solar phase as a morning star has been described as a war indicator. There is a myth like that. I just wonder, is it really so? That's why my main purpose of this research is to explore this idea. The source of this course is mythology, of course, and the coins and temples we commonly see. And I just try to determine which point of time in the event of war this doctrine may apply to. So far, I have to say that the results of this research are not conclusive, Donny, by the way, and therefore a secondary attempt is to identify the astrological war signatures by examining planetary cycles and planetary sign placements, distribution and aspects, and so on.
The good things.
Yeah. And let's look at the mythology of Venus referring to the war. It's important, I guess. Venus appears in mythological stories, goddess of war and conflict, as Aphrodite, Ishtar, and Inanna. For example, in the story of Adonis and Aphrodite, I'm sure you're familiar with, Aphrodite cursed Meera, the daughter of Assyrian king, for not worshipping her as a goddess of beauty and made her have an affair with the father. From this relationship, Adonis comes into the world and Aphrodite falls in love with him as soon as he's the baby. She hands him over to the underworld goddess Persephone to hide him from other gods. However, Persephone, who is in love with Adonis, refused to hand him over to Aphrodite, Venus, and enmity begins between them. There are many versions of this story, but all agrees that Adonis was killed by a boar. In this story, we observed Venus not just as the goddess of love and beauty, but also different characteristics that causes love triangle between them, blended with jealousy and revenge. In Iliad, the story of the judgment of Paris, this is the important story in the mythology, by the way. This story begins with the goddess of discord, Eris. You know that Eris, challenging the most beautiful goddess to take the golden apple that she threw among the guests in the wedding. Juno, Minerva, and Venus compete to win, and Paris announced the winners as Venus. In response, the goddess Venus promises him Helen and causes the outbreak of the Trojan War. Again, in another story, she comes across the goddess who provokes the war. The Mesopotamian Inanna and Ishtar is also associated with Venus, morning star. As we see Venus called Anahit Abaxtari during the Academian period, and she was also called the goddess of war in that period. Many Mesopotamian kings hoped for help from Venus, Donny, for their political legitimacy as the king. I think that's why a lot of temples are being built and ceremonies are being arranged before the war. The point is Venus, the goddess associated with love, passion, and beauty, also symbolizes all kinds of drives that make a difference in our lives that can lead to conflict. When it comes to phases of Venus, the effects symbolized by the morning and evening star phase of Venus are drastically different from each other, presenting two opposed natures. Originally, the terms morning star and evening star were used only for the planets. It took very long time to realize that this bright star appearing on both sides was the same planet. It's Venus. What is the Venus as morning star or evening star? This is in general, let me show you this graph first. In general, as the planet makes its orbit around the sun, when it moves from the superior conjunction to the inferior conjunction, it's eastern elongation here. This is eastern elongation. It's the evening star phase. When it moves towards superior conjunction here, towards superior conjunction is the western elongation and it's morning star. We can see here, if you look at the chart, astrological chart, if you see Venus before the sun rises, before the sun, it's morning star. If we can see Venus after rises sun, this is evening star. This is the geocentric point of view. What is the morning star or evening star Venus? What is the methodology? Based on all these information, my main goal is to reveal the indications of major wars in astrological symbolism and review the role of the morning star Venus. I was really curious about this subject. And of course, the data from the book articles and mostly Wikipedia, the outbreak of the wars, very important wars. And year distribution here, I started from 625 until 2022. Let's see what is the findings of this research. Here, main topic, evening star, morning star, planets, not just Venus, as you can see here, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, it's almost half of the data, not specific morning star outstanding. And here, what about the aspects? Aspects is conjunction and 45. Let me explain this. This bar, this line, orange line is the maximum chi-square. And these, can you see my cursor, Donny? Is it obvious?
Yes,
Okay.
very well. Yeah.
Okay. This line, gray line, is the minimum chi-square. If the data jumps out from the maximum chi-square, it means that there is an aberration. So these data will be important because it's the average. It's high from the average. So this is 45 degree, 45 aspects, and conjunctions is the important aspects in the data. So when we look, sorry.
And just for the audience, like chi-square is a common term when we do a lot of statistical comparison.
Yes, for the research, yes.
And anything that's above the orange bar, it is extra important. So it goes back to conjunction and semi-square, which is a 45-degree aspect.
Yes, and these stands out in the data. 45 aspects is semi-square, and in other words, it's important because it's this aspect prepares the energy for the squares. It means that it's preparation to create tension. And as we know, it takes time for slow-moving planets to reach 45 degrees and also 90 degrees. Some aspects, some planets, it's 6 years to get 45 aspects. And of course, I try to figure it out. What is the 45 and what is the conjunction? This is the conjunction. This is Sun Mercury, Mercury Venus, Sun Venus, of course, because they are very fast moving planets and they are come together very often and repeatedly. Mercury, the trick setter, started the war by triggering Mars. Mars is the war planet. So I think it's quite compatible with the astrological symbolism in here. Mercury, Venus, and the others, Sun, Venus, Sun, Mercury. This is 45 here, 45 aspects, Sun, Mars, and Venus, Saturn, and Sun, Venus. When I saw this, as we all know that 48 degrees is the maximum elongation of Venus from the Sun. It means that peace, beauty, and harmony, which symbolizes Venus, are quite far from consciousness Sun. And also in the data, we see Venus, Saturn here, Venus, Saturn semi-square. In other words, Venus's conciliatory nature is being suppressed by Saturn and Sun Mars here. So it is war data. So I think it's kind of obvious. It's significant.
Yes, and Saturn blocks things as well.
Of course, yes, definitely. And here is what about the signs? What is the main signs in the data? I think it might be expected that it's Aries, a combative and quarrelsome sign, should be more often seen in the data. But Leo is the sign that stands out overwhelmingly in the data. Actually, Aries is associated with impulsive actions, taking first step and acting spontaneously. In fact, war is more than a simple fight, Donny. It's a planned and organized movement for specific purpose, and it requires a really strong strategy. I explain this data like this because I really think about it. Oh my God, there is no Aries in here. It's all Leo. And these, you said something.
I mean, if you think about it, because Leo is fixed fire,
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
like the theme of war is very different from way back when. I mean, last time weapons were manufactured when wars come up, but now it's the other way. We manufacture wars.
Yeah. And when we think about the Leo, these and wars, these kind of wars needs strong leaders, which is Leo, and notable defensive rather than offensive engagements. Also, the fixed nature, as you mentioned, the fixed nature of Leo and Taurus. Look at that. Taurus, it's also on the edge, and Taurus explains months, maybe years-long sieges where focused organizational abilities and staying in power were most needed, because if you want to conquer some place, you have to siege that area first. And sometimes this kind of siege, it takes very long time. It explains the fixed signs in the data. It's my opinion, of course, my interpretation. You can look these findings in a different way, but I can explain these findings like that. And
I mean, Taurus is also resources, right? Why you want to invade a place is to exploit and utilize their resources, whatever that means, like be it resources from the ground or resources from other means.
And it should be mine, or I should protect what is mine. Maybe this is the purpose of the war. In addition to that, Leo means it benefits from creative courage. Leo is courage, and for wars, you need some courage to win the war.
How about Cancer?
Cancer is, it's interesting. Cancer is the cardinal sign. And as the mythology, you know that Cancer is been assigned by Hera to fight with Hercules. And that's the courage and obligation to Hera, because there was a war with the Cancer and the Hercules. Cancer is being honored, a constellation in the skies. We always make a correlation between motherhood, mother, and the Cancer because of the mythology of Cancer. And you can think about a mother protect their child. They can die for their child, or they can die for protecting their family. Cancer is cardinal signs. I explain Cancer like this.
And Cancer is also the sign of Jupiter's exaltation, and Jupiter is to expand, in this case, territory.
Good
And
explanation.
if I go back to Taurus, the moon is exalted there. So it's about the resources,
Yeah.
including the people, the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Why people want to invade a certain place is not only about the resources in the ground, but it's also like, the human capital, everything that's also under Taurus as well.
Yeah.
In the resources of the country. And Leo is only the sun's rulership in Leo that stands out. So it's like what reigns supreme.
Yeah, I need to rule.
Yes.
Need to rule.
Leo is about centralization of power as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, sure.
So you can see how Leo, Cancer, and Taurus is like, you got the resources, you got the expansionary nature of Cancer because of Jupiter's exaltation there, and then Leo is the centralized power.
It's cardinal and fixed.
Yeah.
Yes. What about the fixed stars? Fixed stars, it's the Leo in the data. So fixed stars, Kohab and Sertan, of course. Kohab and Sertan is the same longitude degrees, 13 degrees, all the fixed stars, among all the fixed stars. And I just wonder what planets related with these fixed stars. And it stands out that it's Neptune and Pluto. Rigor says Sun combinations with the Kohab gives endless courage, almost with die or do attitude. For Saturn, it is known also Ekuben. According to Rigor again, this star gives strength, perseverance, and logical mind. Am I pronounced right, Donny? Perseverance?
It's all good. I just want to mention here that 2031 to 2032, we're going to have Pluto opposing these two fixed stars.
Oh my goodness, we can say that.
At the same time, Neptune is trining from Aries to these two fixed stars from Aries.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So these are two fixed stars. And let's go here. It's, oh my God, I really excited about these critical degrees. When I search it, look at that. Aries, 0 Aries, jump out. 4 Pisces, 8 Taurus. What are the critical degrees? Cardinal, here is the list. Cardinal, 0 degree, 13 degree, 26 degree. Fixed, 9 degree, 21 degree. Mutable, 4 degree, 17 degrees. Here, for Pisces, it means formidable. And here, 8 Taurus, it means that 8 fixed. It's almost 9 here, and almost 9. It's so close to here. And we all know what is 0 Aries. And the other one here, fixed Leo, 20 fixed. Look, fixed 21. And here, 26 Libra. 26 Libra is cardinal here. And according to these findings, I can say that fixed stars at critical degrees are effective. We can say that. I don't know if you use critical degrees before this research, Donny. I never look at that critical degrees like that. And now it got my attention. It's really important.
I use that in all my return chart analysis.
Yeah. Good. It's good. Now we should look at the mundane perspective.
Yes.
Okay, yes, and here we go. This is also interesting. Waning and waxing cycles. These are the sample shows the prevalence of the outer planets. I mean Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which are invisible to our eyes. The outer planet cycles in the waning phase. In fact, among the outer planets, the Uranus-Neptune cycle here, the Uranus-Neptune cycle stands out compared to the other outer planets. The outer planetary cycle work in the background to change and break down the old pattern in the collective consciousness. Besides this, the waning phase coincides with the decay and corruption, as you know, of the prevalent structure in society and the emergence of the need for the new in the collective. They are working at the background. In other words, they made the scenes. In my opinion, wars and an epidemic, pandemic, natural disaster such as earthquakes and floods are external events that most quickly affect the historical change in collective. Look what happened after the pandemic. All systems are changed, and somehow the fear is controlling us now. Some events occur when other transiting planets activate these conjunctions, squares, or oppositions in time. But what is important is the change that these two planets, whatever they are two, create in the collective consciousness. This is the important part, I think.
Yeah, and so if you actually look from just the previous slide,
Previous one, okay.
the previous one. So if you actually look at Neptune Pluto, that's the longest cycle. It lasts about half a millennium, about 500 years.
Yes.
And then if you look in reverse, the cycles become shorter except for Jupiter Saturn, which is slightly longer, 20 years.
Yeah.
I have written here for Uranus Neptune cycles is that it's about radical new ideals, this cycle.
Yeah. And inspiration, ideals, high ideals, it's actually their good combination. But when it comes to waning phase, it's waning phase and waxing phase, different side of the coin, I think. When it comes
Because I've written here that Uranus Neptune cycles is about the unfoldment of civilization. That's an important thing to note. And it's also about the political ideals of both democracy and communism.
Yeah, communism. That's the point. Yes, that's the point. Yeah.
So Uranus and Neptune cycles is really about the continuous unfolding of radical new ideals and dreams on a collective level.
Yeah.
That's what I want to add to this slide. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. I just go back to data again. And what is the simultaneous aspects in the data in that years? During the date range of war intensity in the sample, it was observed maximum of 9 simultaneous aspects of slow-moving planets. It means, let's say again, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. These are related with just those planets. And aspects are conjunction, sextile, square, trine, opposition, semi-square, and sesquiquadrat. I just consider these ones. And let's go here, 1704 and 1755. Let's go. Which planets and which aspects? Here is related years. For example, here, waning and waning. Waning, the death of an idea. A period of decay, deterioration, and degradation. And let's go, what happened in these years? I go back to search it. What is the importance of 1804? In this year, there was a great Northern War. The reason for this conflict was the Russian resistance to the expansion of Swedish Empire. Although Swedish Empire tried to get help from Ottoman Empire, it was impossible to fight on many fronts, and Swedish expansion come to an end, and Russia, on the other hand, has taken power on the Baltic Sea, and they become one of the largest states in the world And you know what's going on right now in the world. And it was related with the Russia and Swedish Empire in that year, 1704. The other year, 1755, this coinciding with the 7 Years' War between England and France. All we know that, I'm sure. The 7 Years' War was a worldwide fight between these two countries. They both were trying to establish an empire, and this war can be described as the war that spread all over the world, because it's not just in the North America, but also in Caribbean, South Asia, West Africa. And as a result, England lost the colonies in America. That's the important part of that year. When it comes to 1918, just right after the World War I, as a result of the progress in the weapons, 10 million civilians lost their lives in those years. And this war led to many political changes and revolutions in the states participant in the war. Although 1918 was the year of the World War ended in Europe, but it was the beginning of the path leading to collapse in Ottoman Empire. In addition, we all know October Revolution you mentioned before, 1917, has been one of the most important establishment of the first and largest socialist state in the world. After the war, empires collapsed and new states were established. Most importantly, the aristocracy abolished. We observed the destruction of noble power, and this war led to the other World War. So that's why this year's important year.
Yeah, this
What
graph is probably the most important, actually.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, if we look at the cycles in the form of the timeline, we see the phases of the triple conjunction starting 2020. It's fear, it's devastating. It was pandemic all over the world. And briefly, in here, 2021, it's, you know, Afghanistan, Taliban took over the country, and here 2021, Russia invades Ukraine, and 2023, Israel-Philistine war. And this 2020 was the seeding point in here, because it was a triple conjunction, not just Saturn-Pluto conjunction. It's Jupiter give power these two. And then now this is the timeline. We already saw two big wars all over the world, I really mean it. And now 2025, for example, Neptune-Jupiter conjunction arrives, progress to square, Neptune-Jupiter square here, and Jupiter-Uranus 45-degree next year. And now 2026, let's go back here, 2026, it will be 9 simultaneous aspects will be going on in 2026. And in addition to that, these are Jupiter makes hard, it's opposition, it's not good aspects between Jupiter and Pluto. And we know that this conjunction will be in Aries. In Aries means the cardinal sign, and 0 Aries, which is very important. Let's go back to that. 0 Aries in the war data. 0 Aries is drastically stands out in the data. So this point, critical point, will be triggered by the slow moving planet Saturn, Neptune in Aries. So these two make things harder. And next year is the seeding point leading to these combinations.
Actually, next year, I think in the middle of March next year, there's a total lunar eclipse at 23 degrees of Virgo. It's on the fixed star Didem.
Yeah.
And it is very tightly opposing the 2022 Jupiter-Neptune conjunction at around 22, 23 degrees of Pisces. And it's also pretty close to trining the 2024 Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 22 Taurus. So there's this seeding point. I find that something will go on in the middle of March of 2025 with that total lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
in 23 Virgo. And going back to your point regarding the Saturn Neptune conjunction in 2026 at 0 degrees of Aries, which is part of the world axis. The world axis is 0 Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn.
Yeah.
But we are focusing at 0 Aries because that's where in
Because
2026
yeah.
Saturn and Neptune will conjunct.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've written here that Saturn Neptune conjunction that cycle is somehow seen as benefiting democracy, political changes, and also reforms as well. And it's also a very paramount cycle which governs the development of socialism or communism. Back to that magical word, communism.
Communism, yeah.
Saturn Neptune cycles are very much linked to developments concerning Russia. Yep.
Yeah. And we see that it's Russia, it's related in this year, 1918, communism, whole world actually hold their breath and waiting. We know that there was a big election in United States, and United States, it's very powerful countries, let's say, in the world, and they dominate all other countries in some way. Lots of things will be changed in that country also. And it will affect, of course, it will affect all the world and the politics in the world.
And when I think about the outer planets, or should I say the planets responsible for the different classes of society, Jupiter actually rules the ruling class and then the middle class. And then Pluto is about the ones that's dispossessed, or those that's so-called like left behind. So I was actually thinking that when Jupiter and Pluto are in opposition in 2026, in the signs of Jupiter in Leo transiting, and Pluto is back in Aquarius transiting through that sign, I wonder if there will be this clash between the ruling and middle class and then those who have been or feel like as if they're being left behind by society. That means I'm talking about civil war.
Yeah, in some countries there already been seen civil wars, and it's possible, it's most possible, and it's scary thing. Even talking about it, it's kind of depressing, but yes, unfortunately it's possible. Let's hope not, but it seems so, Donny, because
and this actually goes back to 2020 because both Jupiter and Pluto are involved in that triple conjunction. And Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, it happened in a sign of Capricorn, which we basically seen the largest wealth transfer in history back in 2020 when the world went into lockdown. So you can see how when I define like the ruling and the middle class is very much different than prior to 2020. It's very different now because there's the huge wealth transfer that occurred in 2020. So back to 2026, when I talk about ruling and middle class, what makes you middle class, the definition of it has changed massively since 2020. Yeah.
Think about the Pluto ingress in Aquarius, and in the precession age, we can say that it's the Aquarius age. So it's so obvious that machines, robots, artificial intelligence, they're all stepping in now. And let's think about in that way also. It means that there will be less need regarding human forces, because the robots can do some jobs instead of humans. And these are also another aspects, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading the news the other day. Was it Saudi Arabia? They've got like aerial taxis being built, and they aim to finish the project in 2026 with that Jupiter-Pluto opposition. But at the same time, in 2026, there is still this trine aspect between Pluto in Aquarius to Uranus in Gemini. So we've got Gemini transportation taxis, and you've got Aquarius, Pluto. You've got all those taxis flying in the air.
Yeah.
And there's about to be like new regulations surrounding things flying around in the air.
Yeah.
Transporting people. So you can see how everything just kind of comes into, or should I say, merge into the 2026 pattern. And also, not to forget that in 2026, there is this aspect pattern in the sky. I think what is called is a cradle. So you've got Jupiter and Pluto in opposition, and then you've got Saturn, Neptune, and also Uranus forming trines and sextiles to the opposition. So it's like a cradle, like a trapezoid shape. And so we haven't had that, I don't know for how long in humanity's history, but that's why we are trying to tell the audience that 2026 is so important and transformational on a collective level.
Donny.
Yeah, let me share something that, the audience are curious to find out, because there's all this talk surrounding a potential civil war that's about to happen in the USA. So let me just quickly share what I do observe. I do need to dig in a little bit deeper regarding this. But this is the chart that I use for the USA's independence chart. And then you've got Uranus and Mars in the 7th house of open enemies and conflicts, and also, agreements and resolution.
Maybe new alliance.
New alliance, because Uranus is there. And then if you look at the midpoint, when I say midpoint, this is the closest middle point between the two planets. It basically sits at around 14 to 15 degrees of Gemini, which is the current transit VenusStarPoint in the sky right now.
And the 7th house is the war house also, by the way, in the war house.
Exactly.
And point trigger Mars Uranus midpoint is good catch.
And the current transit VenusStarPoint in Gemini at 14 to 15 degrees of that sign is also conjunct the north node of Uranus. So that's why we're being flooded by a lot of information. But this also tells me that the power has somehow decentralized. Uranus is decentralization from the mainstream media, or MSM, which is more Sagittarius in nature. It goes into the Gemini realm. And who actually wins the election basically tapped on the energy of podcasters, smaller creators who's got a large following to win this election. Let's bring this concept even further. I've also tracked the cycles of Mars conjunct Uranus. And in 2026, on the 4th of July, we do have Mars and Uranus conjunct at around close to 4 degrees of Gemini. And this Mars and Uranus cycle lasts for about 2 years in totality. And so the Mars and Uranus cycle lasts from July 4th, 2026, all the way till approximately 2028, plus minus a month from 4th of July. Something is telling me that from Independence Day for the US in 2026 all the way to 2028, there is this potential energy of civil war that's about to unfold for the US. And that's because after Mars and Uranus separate from around 4 degrees of Gemini, Uranus will be phasing in another Uranus return for the US. And Uranus return for the US hasn't been peaceful at all.
Exactly. After Pluto cycles, then Uranus cycles, it's coming. And the conjunction 0 Aries, Neptune, Saturn conjunction will take place in the 4th house. It's the house of the country inside owned land, homeland.
Gemini, because it's local. And also the Neptune in USA's chart is around 23 degrees of Virgo, which will be the eclipse point of
MC.
The total lunar eclipse happening next mid-March in 2025. So there's something seeding regarding the energy of this coming in. Like Neptune gets total lunar eclipsed next mid-March in 2025. And then in 2026, Independence Day, we've got this conjunction that's on the verge of forming a Uranus return. So going back to your slides again, is that Uranus-Neptune cycle.
And maybe they had to protect their own land. Look at that 4th house, because of the 4th house there. Yeah, it's Neptune will be triggered by the eclipse. Lots of things going on, and we know the Donald Trump now new president of the United States, and he has some ideas about the country and changing lots of things.
I mean, I can foresee that next year when Uranus goes into Gemini, trining that Pluto, people are going to be even more outraged or crazy. That's for sure. And then next year, you've also got the preview of that Saturn and Neptune conjunction. Not they don't meet up exactly, but they do hover around 1 to 2 degrees of Aries, and then they go retrograde just within weeks of each other. Around, I think, the July timeframe. And so next July, I do foresee something that's about to happen. That's going to be like a preview for that 2026 energy that you just showed in your slides towards the end. So this is what I have for you guys. I hope you guys learned something, because I definitely learned something, or should I say I learned a lot from Didem.
I love your interpretation. I love your look at the charts and perspective, Tony.
Oh yeah, I make sure my hair stays around, in 2026. It may not be the most stress-free period as we go into 2025, 2026, but to actually know it beforehand and hopefully prepare for it, at least on a psychological level, you are a step ahead of the rest with that way. That's what astrology is about, right?
Yeah.
If you're forewarned about something, you can prepare for it.
Yeah. Right. Okay, then.
Right. All right. Thank you, Didem, again for showing us your invaluable research.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Donny, inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Because I think people need to know the more about mundane astrology and how you actually see things differently. Yeah, and I think it's getting more and more important, really, as we try to navigate this less than orderly world that's changing very fast.
Yes.
Bye for now for the audience, and let me know in the comments below if you want Didem back on the channel to actually share her astrological research findings, right?
Thank you. See you, Donny. Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.